like him or hate him, you have to admire what Trump has done, both in his professional life and also politically speaking. I mean, the guy was so, like, everyone tried to take him down, and he just kept on going. And he was unpredictable, but you always knew that he was the guy behind the mic. Biden, you have no idea who's writing the teleprompter, right? But you always knew that Trump was the guy speaking. And he also spoke in no uncertain terms. You always knew what he was saying because he spoke at the third grade level. And I think that insight is so central to his success.
He spoke to more people, because the reality is more people consume at that level than at the higher level, right? And so really what it comes down to is no matter what level you're at, you're always going to be able to understand that.
We are here live with Justin Loncaric. Now, Justin is honestly truly an exceptional story. I don't know how much people kind of know about Justin, and I certainly don't want to be the one trying to relay his story when we have the man himself here that can do it for us. But basically, the idea behind everything that I want everybody who's listening to this, the idea that I want them to go away with is that there's no point in time where you're down and out, that you can take ownership of your own situation, and you can take a situation which I'm going to use the word bad in quotations. You can take a quote unquote bad situation and turn it into something magnificent as long as you take full ownership of this. So there's kind of an ambiguous sort of intro into what we're actually going to be talking about. But Justin, let me give you the floor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here right now?
Sure. So I've been in real estate for nearly 20 years. I think we're coming up on my 20th year. And I was with a team it was actually my mom's team. I come from a long line of realtors. My grandmother was a realtor. My dad helped open brokerages across Ontario for Royal LePage in Canada. And it's just been like, it was kind of my destiny to become a realtor. And so that was kind of an interesting line. I fought it for many years. Finally, one day I'm just like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to do it. Cause we had such a great life with it. My parents grew up, I grew up, fairly well off and having a wonderful life, traveling all over the world, doing all kinds of amazing things. And so I started into it on my mom's team, and I did a good 12 years as a buyer agent on her team. And, I rocked it. Last year on her team, I think I did really close to 500,000 GCI, and it was a good year. And then I decided I'm done. I'm going to go out on my own and do my own thing. And I think after 12 years, and if you have any questions in between this, just stop me, because I talk.
Yeah.
I talk, man.
That's good. That's the point of a podcast.
After 12 years, I was like, I'm out. I'm going to go do this on my own. And I would have thought to myself, I know everything now.
Yeah.
12 years is a good long career, right? Like, you've seen it all. Everything from, crazy clients to interesting situations, everything in between. And I really had this mindset that I'm going to rock this thing, and I'm going to do it better than my parents ever did. And
so just to clarify, you were a successworked agent for the 12 years that you worked in your mom's brokerage.
I would say so. I mean, I had a lot of success working on her team and selling buyer. I was a buyer agent, so I worked with buyers. And I got a lot of success doing that. Like I said, last year I did 500,000 GCI that I worked on my mom's team. That's a lot. That's a good year for most people.
Especially as a buyer's agent.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I tell a lot of people. Here's a little side story. A lot of people coming into it going, well, I don't want to be a buyer's agent. I want to do everything. And it's like, listen, do what gets you to your goal. Yeah. For me, real estate is a vehicle to get me to my dreams, my vision, my goal, right? So if it means I got to buckle down and be a buyer's agent, and that provides me with the dream that I want, I'm going to do that, because it's possible. Right. I've heard stories of buyer's agents in the US making millions of dollars and having their own team just as buyer teams. So it's possible.
Can I ask you just on there? So you're talking about the passion of the end goal, right?
Yeah.
So real estate is just a vehicle to get you there.
Yeah.
Do you believe that there's an element of passion needed in the process as well?
I think you have to have passion for what you do in order to create the success, but it stems from the vision. If you don't have the vision, nothing you do is going to be exciting or fun or interesting, or you'll never have passion for it. Right.
So you're separating, like, vision is the end goal. Passion is, like, you have to have the vision of the end goal and the passion in the journey. If you don't have those two things. Okay.
Yes, of course, 100%. Like imagine going through life just getting your ass kicked every day and you hate it, but you don't know where you're going with it.
Yeah.
Like that is just a recipe for disaster, right? I think if you have the vision and the end goal in mind, everything you do leading up to that, nobody can knock you down, right? And granted, I don't want it to sound like I don't care about my clients. I've developed relationships with my clients in this industry that are bar none some of the best I've ever had in my, like, I have clients that are friends. I have everybody that works on my team essentially, it was my client at one time. Like,
Yeah.
because it's just that's how we've developed the relationship, and they trust and believe in the process and the things that I brought to the table so in depth that they felt comfortable enough coming on my team and working for me. So I mean, there's no question that the process involves passion, and I care about the things that I do. But I also understand that the bigger picture is that I have this vision of where I want my life to be. And in order for me to get there, I need a vehicle to get there. It could be stocks, it could be flipping real estate, it could be whatever. It just so happens for me, it's building a real estate team. So, circling back to the process and the story, I did a couple years on my own and I sucked. I sucked. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where to start, where to begin, where to go. I had no idea. And I thought I knew everything. I've been in a lot of trainings and things like that. I had a lot of coaches try to sell me on their coaching programs. And I always love that line that coaches give you, which is basically you can't afford not to hire me.
Yeah.
I always love that line because I was
How
like,
convenient.
yeah, that's super convenient. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, well, fine, whatever. I know.
Well, the best thing is also it's not usually the coaches telling you that. It's usually their sales reps that are going to make
Yeah.
10% of the sale if they close you.
That's right.
And it's like, buddy, like you've never like made a single transaction. You've never done it. You don't know anything about real estate. You probably got this job last week.
Yeah. Yeah. So I sat in lots of those, and I was, you know, it was an interesting process. So our team kind of shaped up in that, and I'll give you the numbers. I'll break down all the numbers, but in 2019, we did 147,000 GCI, and we were kind of struggling. I had two agents that worked for me at the time. My wife was our administration. At one point she said to me, "Hey, we got to check out this marketing program." It was relating to some of the stuff that we were doing. And I got into it, but I said, "You do it." And she said, "Okay," but she didn't know anything about real estate. So she started into this marketing program. And a couple months later, in March of 2020, she said, "You got to go to this event that they're hosting. It's a coaching event. You got to hang out there for a couple days, and you're going to learn some stuff and bring it back to me." So I went to this event in Toronto, and it was literally like weeks before the world got shut down, which was interesting. And I sat in this event and I went, "Holy crap, I'm doing it wrong." Literally, like everything we had learned up to this point, all the things, you know, that I thought I knew. And I think in that moment and being in that event, I was also very open to the idea of like, I needed something to kickstart us. Like I was open at that point. Finally, after years of being on my own, after years of just being in the industry, I was like, yeah, I don't know everything. I think this is the time. Right. And so we were looking for something, and we didn't know what it was, but we were looking for something. And these people got on stage. I think you interviewed Jess. I don't want to make a big deal of it, but Jess got on stage and had a conversation about some stuff, offered a coaching program, and sure enough, we jumped into it. Now, here's the big picture and the big key to this story. This was March 5th, 2020. The coaching program was pitched on stage, and I said, I love the person, I love the program, I loved what it offered, and everything in between. I called my wife on the phone, and I said, "This is available for us. What do we do here?" And she goes, "But you know, we have $29 in our bank account. How do we do this?" Like literally, we had just done 147,000 GCI the year before. We're a couple months into 2020. We had $29 in our bank account. We had some closings coming before the end of the month. Let's be honest. Like it wasn't like that dramatic, but it was enough that like when you have $29 in your bank account, you're not paying for groceries that week necessarily.
Makes you sweat a little bit. Makes
you sweat. I sat in that room on the phone with my wife, freaking out. Signing on the line was the biggest, like my hand was shit. I'd love to see my signature on that paper because I don't think it looks right. I'm pretty sure. They hosted a luncheon that afternoon for the people that signed up for the coaching program. And let me remind you, I don't know if I said this, it's a $50,000 coaching program. So I
Yeah,
paid.
you didn't mention that.
No. So I signed up for a $50,000 coaching program with $29 in my bank account. I'm jumping off the cliff right into the pool, right? And
can I ask at this point in time,
sure,
what happens if it doesn't work out?
That's a great question, right? So in the moment, I was like, I don't know yet. In the moment, I'm just like, I'm putting all my faith in this thing in this moment. And
was it a faith in the person or faith in yourself?
I think it was a combination of both, but here is something that was actually, so 2 weeks ago, I was at another conference and I was telling this story. Someone said to me this, and it was actually like, I actually cried. I cry a lot. So let's just get that out there right now. So I tend to have this emotional thing going on lately. I'm 43 years old. I'm hormonal and emotional. I don't know what's going on. Eric tells me, I meet Eric in Toronto a couple weeks ago, and he says, you realize your wife on the phone with you wasn't just like believing in the program and all that stuff. She was believing in you and putting everything into you. And I think subconsciously that didn't sink in, or it might have sunk in subconsciously back then, but real conscious thought of that only happened 2 weeks ago after 3 years. And I was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. So my wife's belief was in me. My belief was in myself to be able to do something using this program. And I had just spent 3 days listening to this person on stage, give me all her details, all her stuff, all her heart and soul. And I was like, this is the person I need to help me. And I think all those pieces kind of laid together very nicely to the point where we were like, yeah, let's do this. Now, what do we say if it doesn't happen? What happens if it doesn't happen? I looked at her in the eye and I looked at this coach in the eye and I said, if this doesn't work, I'm coming for you for my money back. And I said, however, the caveat to that is I will do everything you say. Yeah. So I will be as coachable, as teachable, as malleable, whatever. I will do everything you say. And if something doesn't work, I will be coming for you for this money back because I don't have it.
Yeah. And so, just, I do want to specify exactly who this person is. Cause like I said, I had her on the show last week, Jess Lenovo. Sure. And I just read her book and I just went through her stuff. And unfortunately, there are so many people out there that are selling programs that they basically just, like, let's say, heard a Tom Ferry webinar, said I could probably make a course about all of this stuff, threw themselves something together, and then all of a sudden now they're a coach, right? Yeah. And it's more specific, like the fact that they're crypto experts. Like, this stuff hasn't been around for long enough for somebody to be an expert. Like, can you give me a break for a second?
Yeah.
So I do want to show love where it's definitely due. Sure. Is that Jess Lenovo is just, I mean, just a stud. Like, she's the real deal. Oh. And I think unfortunately, you may have had all of those pieces. You may have had the belief in yourself. Your wife may have had the belief in you. You may have been like, let's go, we got to do this now. But if she didn't play her role well, the whole thing would have buckled.
Exactly, 100%. And I think what it came from her perspective, and I'm glad we were able to talk about her a little bit in that.
Oh, for sure.
Because I don't want to make this a promo for Jess, but at the same time, I absolutely believe in there's going to be a coach for everybody. Not everybody is right for everybody, right? And this person spoke to me in that moment. She stood on that stage and she was talking to me on that stage. I don't care how many people were in that room, right? I don't know what it was. That's what I felt, right? So that's why we did what we did. It was a crazy decision. I was scared. I spent the rest of the afternoon in the washroom, but I genuinely sat in front of her afterwards and I said, I'm doing this and we're going to do everything you say. There was pushback. There was skepticism. There was all kinds of things. I had this scarcity mindset. Like, I was putting, we had a payment plan for it. So I was putting $6,000 a month on my line of credit and trying to pay it off and so on and so forth. It was just like, it was crazy. Like, I was on the razor's edge for the first few months. COVID happened right after I signed up for this thing. There was moments when I was sitting there going, we should just cancel it before it starts. Because we signed up in March and it really, like, the day one of the program was like May 1st, I think. And it was like, I think I'm just going to cancel this because like with COVID, like, how do we do this? Right.
Yeah. I want to point out something that you said earlier on, which is one of the reasons that I think she's the real deal is the whole point of a marketer is to end, because that's what I do, right? I'm a marketing coach for realtors. The whole point of a marketer is to know how to start a conversation with your prospects before it really starts actually, right? So you're
Sure.
saying the things that are already in their head. So an analogy that I like to give also is like, I know realtors, I know what they're thinking, right? And this is why it's very easy for me to create products to sell to them, because I know what they need and what they want, what keeps them up at night. So I'll show like a brain that looks like a maze, and it'll be like, you feel like you're somewhere inside of here, that you've consumed so much information from so many different sources. And it's like, you just have no idea how to piece it all together.
Sure.
And I think that a true understanding, and this isn't with coaching, this is with any industry. So as a real estate agent, let's say again, so one of the things that Jess talks about is your niche shouldn't be a property type. Your niche should be excuse me, your niche to be like a stage in life, like first-time home buyers, for example, or folks who are maybe downsizing, right? Empty nesters, let's say. And so to be able to have the conversation of like understanding the emotion of your family leaving, and like they've gone their own way and now you're alone, but you're not alone, and to be able to tap into that is powerful, powerful stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that a lot of her program was her giving you the ability to do what she did with you, basically to enter your conversation before you were actually having it. And now you can do that with your real estate clients. Is that correct?
Yeah. So her process starts before you even meet her, right? Like, you're seeing her online, you're seeing all the videos and things that she does, and you're consuming that stuff, and that's subconsciously going into your brain and actually now leaving little marks there. So by the time you now sit in front of her, now you're actually having that conversation, and it's already mostly done. You don't need to worry about what the other things are. It's just like, let's just get this moving.
Right.
So now fast forward to, we get into the program, we start working on our niche, we start working on all the pieces that make sense. We came up with a process that was like, okay, what do we need as a company? What does JL Realty Group need in order to move forward quicker? The first thing we needed was inbound leads. So the marketing piece was the first thing we worked on, right? Because we needed more money quickly rather than worrying about systems and models and things like that. That can happen after. Let's build the marketing piece to get more business coming into the gate. So immediately now we're talking about our niche market. Where do we sit? How do we build that out? How are we going to speak to those people? What are the key messages we need to say to those people? And then how do we put that into reality? Is it video? Is it written content? Is it what is it? What the different types of, and it's all broken down, right? And you get all of those pieces together. Once you start to realize how that actually affects people out there, once you start to realize how powerful that writing is, one of the things that was interesting to me that I learned that I never really knew, and this is like a little secret, and I don't know who your listenership is, quite frankly, and I don't know if it's American or Canadian or all over the place, but one of the reasons why Trump does so well is because I remember specifically when he won the election, they were talking about how his speech grade level was like a grade like 3.
Yeah.
Genuinely. And they were like, look at this compared to Hillary Clinton's, who's like a grade 9 grade level. Like, her speeches were grade 9. Trump's were grade 3, right? Now, what's the first thing you learn about creating content is get your grade score, your grade level down in creating content so that it's a much simpler. Everyone's trying to be smart and sound clever.
Yeah. I want to let you just continue there, but I have to point out, like, it's so interesting that you say that, because this morning I was looking over my content, right? So I have a video platform, right, for realtors who want to create more social media videos. So I'm running the platform on myself. Obviously, I'm using my own program, and I'm always looking at ways of making it better. And so the idea behind the platform is, on the platform, I ask you niche-specific questions. So first-time home buyer questions, I might ask something like, how does the process of working with a first-time home buyer differ than that of a regular home buyer? So one of my niches is also coaches. That's what I use. So the question that I answered this week, was, how do you develop effective negotiation skills to help with the transactions? So we asked that question, and then we put the title at the top, which is basically just a shortened version of the question. And at the top of the video, it says how to develop effective negotiation skills. And I'm looking at this today, and I'm like, I could just say how to get better at negotiating.
Yeah.
Right? Why do I have to say the word? But as a person who talks and thinks like this sometimes, right? Like, where everyone is cursed with knowledge to some capacity. So if you're a realtor and you start talking about, this is another thing she said that I love. She said, don't use the word transactions or deals. They're not like, I need a transaction. They're like, I need to move. I need to get into a different house, a different place, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that we use jargon like done for you. What the heck does that mean? Or DFY, like what the heck does that mean? So I think that it's so interesting that you're saying this. And I think that there's really a couple, I mean, listen, like him or hate him, you have to admire what Trump has done, both in his professional life and also politically speaking. I mean, the guy was so like everyone tried to take him down, and he just kept on going. And he was unpredictable, but you always knew that he was the guy behind the mic. Biden, you have no idea who's writing the teleprompter, right? But you always knew that Trump was the guy speaking, and he also spoke in no uncertain terms. You always knew what he was saying because he spoke at the third grade level. And I think that insight is so central to his success.
He spoke to more people, because the reality is more people consume at that level than at the higher level, right? And so really what it comes down to is no matter what level you're at, you're always going to be able to understand that, right? And then you drop down to the base of people that actually voted for Trump. And again, I don't want to get this into a political discussion, but the reality is that he just spoke to more people that got aroused by his messaging. That's it. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is to try to take the message that everyone's trying to complicate and use big buzzwords in real estate and all these things. And the reality is two things: speaking to the pain point of those people and finding a solution for it. And the third sort of semi thing is in a way that is relatable. Yeah. Right. So you're speaking to the pain point and creating the solution for them in a relatable way that they can understand. That's it. I mean, that's simple broken down version of it. How do you do that? All the pieces that relate to that, those are all discussions that need to be had, and how to figure all that stuff out is really a little bit more than that. But that's it, really. Like, you got to find a pain point. You got to find the pain points of the niche that you're working with. And when you find those pain points, you got to find solutions. And the more you can do that in a better way, the more people will listen to what you're saying.
Simple. I think that's also why Jess talks about not having a property type as your niche, but having the stage of life, because there's no, I don't know, people looking to move to a condo. Like, I'm trying to tap into the emotions of condos. Like, condos don't have emotions. The people.
Yeah, but think about who wants a condo now.
Exactly.
That's more important, because the people, rather than the physical thing, are more important. Right. So the executive type that doesn't want maintenance, right? That travels a lot for work, that kind of thing. What are their pain points? Well, they want to have a safe, secure location that they can come home to where there's no maintenance. And, they also want quiet. So they want this type of demographic in their building. Yeah. Right. Or, that like those things, like a physical thing, you're right, has no emotion, has no pain point. Right. The person is who you're trying to get involved with, not the actual thing. Right. Sometimes geographic location also works into that, but it's again, also more difficult, right? You really want to work towards the pain point of the people that you're talking to.
So I know, sorry, I keep digressing here, but I had Ryan Smith on a show recently also. He's an expert in geographic farming.
Sure.
And one of the things with him is, okay, so you've got your community. Mm-hmm. What do your people in the community want, right? Exactly. So we were looking at Westdale, which is, I know you live close by, so yep. Westdale. It's a university town. Yep. And it's like, okay, so let's look at families in Westdale. So even with a guy like that specializes in geographic farming, anybody who knows anybody about marketing know that, like, if you're trying to rid your marketing of emotion, you're done. Like, you've got nothing.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I've been telling my mom also for years, my mom who I worked for 12 years, I've been telling her, people want to know who Karen Paul is, right? Karen Paul's my mom. I don't mind saying it out loud. Anybody that knows her, and some people love her, some people hate her. It is what it is. It's everything in between. But some can say the same about me too, so it's fine. I don't mind. But like, at the end of the day, I've been saying to her for years, people want to know who Karen Paul is and who the emotional side of Karen Paul is and what she thinks about her family and what she thinks about her, what she eats for breakfast and these kinds of things. That's the kind of shit that also helps build the trust within the community.
Yeah.
Right. Trust within the niche. Right. I talk a lot on my social media stuff about, there's things like, actually, one of the best stories I told, and anybody that wants to Google my name and go look for this story somewhere in there, is the trip to the Bahamas I took last year. And I took my family on a boat trip, and we went on this boat and we almost died. Literally. Like, I'm not joking when I say that. I'm not.
Are you able to tell us what happened?
Long and the short of it is, we went on this boat trip from Nassau to the Exumas, which is this, you go see the pigs. Everyone wants to go see the pigs in the Bahamas, right? There's a pigs on this island, right? And so it's an hour-long boat ride between Nassau and the Exumas. And they tell you on the way out that the section between Nassau and the Exumas is called the Wicked Witch. They call it that because it's bumpy. It's open ocean, like literally it's open ocean. And so it's not like flat and still all the time. Most of the time, even on its best days, you're going to have some chop and you're going to bounce along. And sure enough, the whole way there, my wife and I were staring at each other like, what the F is going on here? This is ridiculous. It was annoying. Your back is hurting because you're just hammering down constantly on the waves. So that's fine. We get to the Exumas, and the second you get near the island, it flattens out and you hit this beautiful blue water and you start floating along on the water, and it's wonderful. We went to see iguanas on an island. We went to see pigs. We went swimming with sharks, which was pretty cool. Just nurse sharks, so nothing crazy. But there's video of us, like literally my son lying in the water with all these sharks floating around him. It was crazy. Awesome. It was amazing. It was like a once in a lifetime experience. It was amazing. And so then on the way back, they stop us at this little beach just for a quick break. Everybody gets off the boat. We swim on this beach. It's a private beach, but you can see over the horizon. You can see these clouds building. And we were, you could see the crew, these three guys on the phone, making phone calls and kind of like, having these hurried conversations on the boat while we were all in the water. So then we get in the boat, and on the way back, he starts handing out, I was going to say life jackets, but it wasn't even that. It was raincoats. And so we're all putting on these raincoats, which, I mean, who gives a crap at this point? But we start along, and all of a sudden we go from whatever temperature the air is. We felt this wall of air, and it just changed. The temperature dropped like immensely. Like suddenly it's freezing, and you just hit it. And then the waves start to get bigger, to the point where we could hear the engine go as we came out of the water off the top of the wave, and the motor on the back of the boat was coming out of the water, and we were slamming down on the far side of the wave, just slamming down. Like I've never felt anything like it in my life. My boys on the one side of the boat were just like staring at each other like, what is going on? In fact, kind of giggling in a way, but not like they were like
nervous laughter.
Like this sucks kind of, but yeah, nervous laughter. My wife had a few mojitos, and she was looking at me, and she'd gone from the angry person in the first on the way out to like the mojito person who was like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah.
My daughter was bawling her eyes out. I grabbed her in my arms, and I was holding her under my arms just to console her because she was bawling. Lady in front of us was vomiting everywhere, like just constant vomit. Like it was just the whole scene was insane. And we were sitting at the very back of the boat for this ride for the whole thing. And so we could see everything in front of us, all the people and things that were happening. Lightning, all of a sudden we heard these cracks, and we were like, what is that noise? And you look up and you see the lightning, and it's crashing down, like hitting the water like 30 feet from the boat.
Oh my God.
It was the most the rain was hitting us sideways. The water was coming off the boat. There was so much. It was just the chaos of it was the most insane thing I've ever felt in my life. And then we finally and it got to a point where we could see other boats a couple of times, and they would peel off and disappear and whatnot. And I think we were following a boat at one point. And then finally, after, I don't know, it must've been, because it had to have been 35, 40 minutes of just intensity, of just constant, intense hammering, crashing, banging. At one point, the canvas on the top above us, they had this canvas roof, and it started flapping, and it started clobbering my wife in the head. So I had to hold it up. The guy tried to come and fix it. He couldn't fix it. So I just put my arm up and held it up the rest of the way. Finally, all of a sudden, we just hit a spot where it goes still, and we're on flat water, and we pull into port, and everything's good. And we dock the boat, and we get off the boat, and we look at the boat, and it's almost like, I can only say it's like a Boston whaler style. I can't explain exactly, but the driver, the boat captain was in the middle. There's a bit of glass around the front of him, plexiglass that was all shattered.
Oh man.
Yeah. So the whole thing, the reason why the canvas had come down was because the whole central console had shifted, and it made the canvas that was normally stretched out had come together a bit and was just floppy now because it wasn't stretched anymore. I talked to the captain after. He was handing out beers on the way out, like, beers for the road, everyone.
Yeah.
And I talked to the captain. I said, how was that? Like, that was a shit show, right? And he goes, I wouldn't normally swear, but he goes, that was the worst effing storm I have ever been in with tourists in my life.
That's crazy.
So, there were moments when you could feel that he was trying to turn the boat and try to get straight and figure stuff out. You could feel the changes and things. Like it was terrifying. Like
Well,
literally,
just
like,
even the way you explained it, that the air just changed. Like you're
yeah,
watching a movie,
yeah,
and then like the bad guys coming from over the mountain, and all of a sudden like the
yeah,
air is different, and everybody looks around, and it gets really eerie. And if you have a second of clarity, you're looking at this and you're like, it could still be a sunny day. Like the air doesn't literally change. It was like, no, the air like literally changed. We hit a wall. It was colder. It was dreary. It was glum. Like the whole situation changed.
So let me sort of hammer this home though. You were riveted to that story. Hopefully the people listening to this were riveted to that story. The people reading it on my account love that story. There was tons of comments and things. Now imagine taking a just sold and telling the story of your just sold,
Yeah.
of how you took it from start to finish. Instead of just saying just sold, nothing bothers me more right now in this industry than agents posting just solds and going, I'm so excited for my client on their new journey that they're about to embark on. Boo. Like, come on, man. Everybody says that. I like the picture of the client in the sold sign. That's cute. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But tell me how you got them from where they came from to where they're going.
Yeah.
Tell me that story.
Exactly.
There's a little that's story what's going to draw people in.
Right. There's a little story in a picture, and then at the end, it's like the lad, like, call me for all your real estate needs.
Yes. No, that doesn't work anymore. Right.
I don't know if it ever worked.
There's a book by Grant Cardone called Be Obsessed or Be Average. And if you want to be average, do that. Right. Yeah. If you want to be more than average, break the mold of average. And if everybody's doing the same thing, that becomes average. You got to be better than that. So you take that and you shatter it out and you go, okay. So we had a 7-day COVID listing challenge story that we wrote that was very popular. We had a guy that wanted to sell his house, but he was in the banking world and he knew COVID was going to shut down the world and he wanted us to list and sell his house in 7 days. Otherwise he was done. Yeah. So we told that story about how we did that in 7 days in a very ridiculously strange market in that moment. And that draws people in. If I'd have just said, so excited that we were able to sell this guy's house. Boring.
Yeah.
Right. You want to tell people how you did it so that they go, wow, he's really good at what he does, or she's really good at what she does. Right. I don't know. That's just me. I think it's more impactful when you do it that way.
100% it is. I mean, it's people like there's 3 reasons that people buy. I mean, I shouldn't say 3 reasons that people buy. There are 3 emotions that people go through when they make a purchase. The first one is I got 3 stages, I'll say. The first one is the emotional stage. Like, do I want this? If they don't want it, there's no sale to be made. If they want this, then you get into facts. They have to logically justify the reason that, and this is strictly in the terms of a transaction, right? If they want it, you have to factually argue or make a point to make a case why it makes sense, because they just need to validate at that point in time that they can do what they want to do, right? Everybody wants to eat a cheeseburger for breakfast, but you can't rationalize it, right? I mean, when you get to a certain age, maybe not, but that's kind of the idea. Yeah, you want to eat gummies for all the time. You want to eat cheese, but you can't rationalize it. So it's not always. And then afterwards is the fear, right? So that's why they have like offers for a limited time only, that's kind of thing, right? But it all starts with the emotion. So the sale can only be made when you can emotionally tap into what's going on with them. And so when people just neglect that, it's like going over to somebody with, I don't know, a nutrition drink that they've never heard of you. They have no idea what it tastes like, how it is, what it's really supposed to do. And you're just going at them and saying like, even like these nutrition drinks, these protein powders, they don't show up like their logo is not just a whole bunch of factual information about it. It's a picture of a buff guy. And even nowadays, there's a marketing strategy, which I think is absolutely brilliant, where the entire wrapper is so bland and plain. And it's just then like just the ingredients and like that's kind of their thing. But that tells a story, because do you want to be the kind of person that buys into all of this stuff, or do you want to be this kind of person that knows exactly what you're eating? So even when they're telling the facts, they're telling a story. And you're in Canada, so you know No Name Brand, right?
Yep.
That's a story. So that's for anybody really cool. Who doesn't know, No Name Brand it's just yellow. Their branding is just yellow, the most ordinary neutral yellow you could possibly imagine, not even like mustard yellow. Their font is Helvetica font, and their brand is literally No Name. That's the name of their company, is No Name. And the idea behind No Name Brand is, listen, we're not pretending to be the big boys. We are what we are. If you want good value, cheap, it's good food, it tastes good, and it's good quality, this is where you go. And that's the entire story behind it. And again, you telling the story of the 7-day COVID challenge, right? I almost died trying to sell a home. I know you didn't get into the numbers of what happened after that, but I bet that you got a ton, I don't want to say business, but a ton of engagement from these.
Yep. We absolutely did. We got tons of engagement, which led to other business, which led to other things. Right. And that's the point. And if you do, but the key though becomes, let's take it another level, consistency, right? People tend to get excited about this sort of thing and go, I'm going to be a social media marketer. And they do this stuff for 10 minutes. I mean, like, let's call it 30 days. And then they get tired, or the next shiny object comes along, or a little bit of business pops into their plate and they get busy and they forget about it. And then they stop. So like, circling back to the idea of a coaching program and learning new things, what you put into whatever you're doing is what you're going to get out of it. You know, oh, social media didn't work for me. It's not that great. Or I don't do this, or I don't do that. Well, that's because you didn't do it enough. We have been doing this consistently. Go on my social media pages. You'll see we have been posting social media posts consistently for 3 friggin' years. 3 years straight. We've been on vacation. We've still posted. We've been on the other side of the world. We've still posted. I've been in the Bahamas. I still posted. Right. And it's all there because it's what has created our brand. People expect it now. I go into Tim Hortons or Starbucks or wherever you want to go, and I get people waving at me going, you're that Justin guy. I go to golf tournaments that I don't know half the people there, and they're like, Justin. I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And that just comes from the idea that I went to my high school reunion a couple weeks ago. People that I hadn't seen in 25 years. And I was getting like, oh my God, your stuff is amazing online. I follow you for everything. And I'm like, and you're going to sell and buy with me when you go to do that, right? And they're like, yep. Cool. Yeah. And that's part of the conversation. You know, I'm not going to be secret. Yeah. How's the market? I get that question all the time. I'm going to answer that question every single time. Right?
Yeah. But that, again, I think that the stages, though, that's a fact-based question. And it starts with the emotion. They wouldn't have asked you if you didn't start with the emotion. Right.
Agreed. But also consider the omnipresence of that. I'm part of the omnipresence. I know Jess probably talked about it last week. I'm part of the omnipresence. So me being out in the world and then being asked how's the market is part of my omnipresence. Yeah. Right. So that's me being out there actually physically doing that. So it's another layer. But the reality is, yeah, I think a couple things we should take away from this though is, you know, and I mentioned it before we started recording, like action is better than perfection. People will sit here and go, well, I got to figure all this stuff out. I got to learn. I got to get. Yes. Get the right advice, get the right coaching and mentorship, right? Like, I know your stuff is amazing, right? So, I mean, like, jump in on board. If you're thinking about getting a coach, then you should be getting a coach, right? There's no question. So yes, get the right mentor, get the right coach, get the right person in place. Cause I still have a business coach. I still have Jess. I still have another business coach as well. Like, you think you know everything to a point. You don't. The second part of that is absolutely action. I don't know how many times I've seen people in Jess's program, just as an example, because I've been in it, that have said, you know, I've taken a few of the things that I've learned and I started doing a couple of posts and already I'm starting to get I'm getting people like doing stuff. And so like, boom, right away, right? Just because they've done they don't know everything yet. They haven't done the whole course. They've just posted a few things and boom, they're starting to get traction right away. Don't get caught up in the details of I need to be trained a certain way to a certain length to be able to do certain. No. Just go post something. Just be real. Just go post something, right? Even if you went on my social media, looked at my pages, stole some shit and posted it, that's probably better than nothing, right? I'm not advocating for that. Don't steal my stuff, but like that's better than nothing in a lot of ways. Like it's the ideas for content, because the idea that I have can be transposed into your opinion of something, right? And create and built upon the idea of what is Kitech plumbing and how do you get around it. How I talk about it is going to be different than how you talk about it. So take that topic and go, here's how I would deal with Kitech plumbing, and write that in a post. Very simple, right? I don't know. To me, it's simple, but it requires effort. That's the thing that people fall short on.
So I'm actually happy you kind of went this direction, because just before we close it out here, what you're talking about right now is coachability. Like, it's not
totally
difficult, but it takes effort. And you're saying for you it's simple, and the reason is because you're a coachable person. So not complicated because it was taught to you. So you're not supposed to know all of this stuff out of the gate. You're supposed to know real estate. I'm supposed to know marketing. And I have my clients sometimes ask me, like, I don't know, for different real estate related questions. I'm like, this is out of my wheelhouse because I know what I know and you know what you know. So you don't have to know everything about it.
Sure.
So what you're describing, like I said, right now is coachability. So to close out, I want to ask, number one, how does one become coachable? And then as a second part of that question is, once you do become coachable, what can one expect from themselves once they become a coachable person?
Real estate is a fickle business in that a lot of people, it's all about us as realtors. We have our face on everything. We have the brand on things. Like, it's my name sometimes. People's real estate businesses are their name. So they feel like they have to be the thing that knows it all and is all knowing. And I think that becomes an ego-driven business model, right? Everyone kind of looks up to us, right? And so I think step one, leave your ego at the door, right? My problem was I came from a silver spoon. I had everything growing up. I was very, arrogant, I guess is the word. Jess will tell you, I'm a completely different person today than I was when I started her program. A lot of that had to do with the ability to shed all the BS of knowing everything and literally just standing there and going, okay, just choose to be teachable. You have to choose it. Unfortunately, it's a process. There's so many people that come into the program. I've watched so many videos and had so many conversations with people where they're like, but what if, no, not but. Well, my thing is this. No. Your thing doesn't matter. These people, Oliver, Jess, whoever else you hire, they have been doing this specifically for years. It's the same reason I hire photographers and I don't take photos. Right? They know better. They can take a better photo because they understand lighting. They understand all the pieces that relate to angles, all these things. So I trust them to do a better job of taking the photo. These people are here to teach us, and they wouldn't be teaching us this stuff for the most part. And I only, just so we're clear, I've done my research. I associate with people that I trust and that I believe have the right intention. And that's why I'm on this podcast, just so you know. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that Oliver didn't know what he was doing.
I appreciate that, man.
Well, like, let's be clear. Like, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up people's ass and tell them things and then, they don't follow through. Oliver follows through with his shit, right? I've followed him for a while and I know what he's doing, right? Jess, Oliver, these people are great people that have an intention that is good, and they've been doing this for years, so they understand what they're doing. And you can't claim to know more. It's like walking into the doctor's office and going, yeah, but I Googled. Come on, right? Like, they had to go to school and do all the things to be a doctor, and you're going to try to tell them that you Googled for 10 minutes and you know better, right? So I think this is the key, is to put your ego at the door. You have to make a decision going into a program that you're going to do the things that need to be done in order to create success, right? And thinking that you know everything or you know more than the person that's trying to teach you this stuff is absolute garbage, right? It's going to feel uncomfortable and awkward, but guess what? The uncomfortability and the awkwardness is where growth happens. Bottom line. Whether it's mentally, whether it's business or marketing wise, if you feel uncomfortable with it, that's where growth happens. Now, I will say this about marketing. A lot of times people look at my stuff and look at other people's stuff and go, well, I don't feel like I can do that. Well, sure. I'm goofy and silly and I like to have fun and I'm that person. If you're, let's go to a disc profile and say, if you're a C-type personality, and you're that person that loves numbers and is very dry and very calm and straightforward and doesn't get all excited like I do, and I get crazy and I tell these emotional stories, and your story is told differently, that's okay too, right? Your story is going to be your story, and your story will draw the right people into you that you want. You just need to tell that story. But it comes from literally the first thing you need to do is step back and go, okay, I'm here for you. And what that comes from is understanding the vision. I think this all falls back to the original comment I made earlier on, which is if you have the right vision and you want the right things and you have the right goals and aspirations in mind, you'll do whatever it takes to get there. And if that means taking a step back and putting your ego at the door, that's what you'll do. Simple as that. Does that make sense?
Totally. Totally. And I think that this is, I don't think there's anything else we can really talk about. I think that was like the
I love
perfect
it.
soliloquy there to end this episode. So, Justin, I'm going to, in a moment, tell everybody that they need to follow you and they need to go and look at what you're doing. But before I do, what's the best place that people could actually reach out to you if they have any questions?
Sure. If you're a realtor and you want to just ask me shit, Instagram's the best place. You can go on Instagram to Justin Loncaric, at Justin Loncaric, and you can send me direct messages there. It's the best place to follow me too. All of my content across all my platforms is all on Instagram. So you never have to worry about missing anything. So if you want to see everything, it's all there.
Okay, and I'm also going to be sharing all of your links underneath in the description once we actually do publish this episode. Justin, man, you're an inspiration, honestly, as a coach. I'm telling you, you're the perfect kind of person to join a coaching program because you're extremely coachable. You don't really have an ego when it comes to this stuff. And as you mentioned at the beginning, maybe there was an ego, right? That was kind of what you said at the beginning, but then you learned to put that to the side. So that's a learnable thing. So even if somebody's not necessarily coachable right now, it's like you can still become
You
coachable.
have hope. There is hope.
Exactly.
You.
Exactly. So Justin, honestly, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights with us and your experiences with chess as well.
Amazing. I appreciate you having me. It's been a blast. You're awesome, Oliver. I appreciate what you're doing for the industry. So